What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Austin, and thanks for tuning in for this week's Roundup. And as always, I have Mr. Davin Broadbent joining me today, and it does seem like we have a much better internet signal this week. So we can see, the nice coat of tan that you have going on there, all the loveliness that you bring to the camera, Davin. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Yeah, good and good. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me again. And apologies, guys, for the patchy internet from last week. We're going to chalk that down to a combination of hurricane and bad repeaters. So I'll own that on my side, but hopefully a lot better this week.
Wonderful. And so I do want to call back on last week's Roundup, because when it got released into the community, there was admittedly a lot of excitement there for some of the things that were being talked about. We talked about Ray with the UN. We talked about some of the exchange pieces, which I know are getting kind of exciting at this point. And so one thing I think a lot of our community might be a little bit confused about is, and I'm hoping maybe you could clarify this just a little bit before we get into it, is what is unique about our exchange tech specifically? Because we talk about solving the self-custody issue, but of course, we have decentralized exchanges. And I know that we've, talked about this ad infinitum, but I think it does bear repeating that we are the sole owners of this type of technology that we're talking about. And is it possible that you could dive a little bit deeper into kind of what makes it so special?
Yeah, I think that lots and lots more detail will come out over the next sort of few weeks anyway. But I'm happy to kind of give a very quick overview. But in a nutshell, the exchange experience that we currently enjoy is effectively a brokerage that's been skinned. So the centralized exchange experience is kind of what I'm talking about. The decentralized exchange experience is slightly different. And that model is, again, slightly different. And again, as you said, there is self-custody, and how that exchange process works is slightly different. But what we're bringing to the table, and where our unique kind of USP lies effectively, is that not only can we provide what is essentially a true exchange experience in terms of a matching engine, order books, etc., that enable people to with custody of their assets, exchange those assets at a price that's been determined, or a fixed point that they've established in market conditions, and that settlement happens at T0, which again is not something that anyone else has really managed to achieve. Our technology enables all sorts of added benefits around that exchange mechanism as well. So you start bringing in things like our patented fraud, theft, and loss, or any of the regulatory compliance issues, any of those other things, and effectively what you have is a core piece of infrastructure that can be deployed to exchange any value, any assets, anything that's tokenized, any digital assets anywhere in the world. And we're talking cross-border, we're talking but with a clear sense of transparency and security that blockchain is kind of renowned for. And this is really kind of taking the best of both worlds and leveraging all of the potential and the capabilities and pushing them together in a way that makes sense. So what we've had currently admittedly works, right? There are, billions of people using and transacting on, decentralized exchanges, DEXs, Uniswaps, etc. And there are millions of people also transacting on centralized exchanges. And for the most part, I would say, and I want to say majority, but, the reality is the majority have probably also been impacted by various issues that have come from, the nature of the space, whether that's fraud, whether that's, denial of service, or whether that's missing out on opportunities, or just, due to the nature of the interface, lots of people have been touched by that. We solve for those problems as well. And so effectively what we've done is kind of analyze the market, the wider market, not just the crypto market, but the wider Web2 market, looked at, where people want to go and how people want to, transact and exchange in the future. And our whole platform, from many years ago, and this is, largely in part thanks to the vision of Tom and Ray and what they've been building and putting together. We've been planning for this for a long time. And so we're now at the pointy end of that, where our technology will effectively just enable what is going to be the next evolution in, how assets are exchanged and traded. And that's something, again, that, as you pointed out, nobody currently has any kind of solution for. There are lots of hybrid solutions. There are lots of solutions which offer, on the surface at least, that type of experience, but there are compromises, whether that's in speed or settlement or counterparty risk or back end. And again, our solution is designed to solve for all of those problems. So in that sense, we are, truly an incredibly unique and exciting opportunity from that exchange technology point of view. But that's only touching the surface, because again, while that is a very, very important and huge piece of business, and it's a huge opportunity for us to move forward, there are so many other critical pieces that our technology and infrastructure and our token and everything else can unlock and enable, for a value exchange, a business enablement, and resiliency. These are all of the applications that blockchain should be solving, and we bring solutions for all of those things. Now, I'm not arrogant enough to say that we are the solution, we are the perfect solution, we have all of the answers, but we will set a benchmark that I'm confident the market will follow once we've defined and established each of these core areas, which is exactly what we're working on and what we're working to deliver. It will follow that others will immediately say, okay, now what we're doing is not good enough, or now what we're doing clearly doesn't catch these edge cases, or doesn't solve for all of those things as efficiently or effectively as it should. And so that's what we're hoping to do. We will redefine the way that the market kind of interacts with customers and consumers. We'll redefine the way that institutions in other critical stakeholders interact and exchange or trade value and services. And it also comes down to any kind of value exchange, whether it's money or others. It's really it's that we bring.
So, and just on a kind of a personal side, and you had talked a lot about the various aspects of this that our technology will enable. But for me, like for years now, I've been of the personal feeling, I don't trust any custodian with my crypto assets, and I haven't for a long time, right? So that leaves DEXs, which make you completely beholden to gas prices on whatever network you're on, beholden to slippage that may be inherent in the liquidity pools, right? So if I want the experience of a centralized exchange, it's literally just me sending assets to the exchange and immediately yanking them off, and really being anxious during the 20 minutes that they're on there, right? Like that's kind of the way that I've always experienced this. And really what I'm trying to create is what you're explaining will be brought forth. And I was having a call earlier today with a really, really cool company that's doing some stuff in the metaverse. They called themselves the Amazon of Web3, which I found extremely interesting because we like to reference AWS. But anyhow, she was completely, when I started explaining to her, she started talking about regulatory adherence and approaching large enterprise and the problems that she experiences on your traditional layer one chains that, we just kind of have to deal with because there's nothing else that exists. And it was like, man, you were speaking my language. And I really hadn't had that type of a conversation with somebody yet outside of making videos. And it warmed the hell out of my heart. I just wanted to share that. So, all right, moving on the exchange side, last week, the thing that really got, folks talking was, you were kind of touching on where we're at on that side and kind of what stage, I don't really know how to put it, what stage we're at with the exchange or how all that's going. Can we touch at all on what you've been working on that, or are we kind of just drawing the line?
Yeah, for sure. So again, we're not wanting to put the cart before the horse. There's a lot of things that have to happen. Our technology is again, this is something we've been working towards for a long time. So we are, I would say, fairly close to ready from an MVP, and I want to say not, MVP is the wrong word. We've proved and all of the core pieces of infrastructure that are required for all of the critical pieces of an exchange we have in place. So just to kind of reassure people, it's not something that we're building from the ground up. It's not something that, we are now about to kind of put pen to paper and kind of design based on our kind of grand ideas, et cetera. It's there. All of the critical pieces are there. We've done some fairly big gap analysis pieces where we're working through the kind of critical resource working group pieces at the moment. But what we do have, fundamentally is all of the assets that or all of the infrastructure assets that are ready required for that, technology to move forward. What we are working on and what we're still working on, it is a work in progress, are the critical partnerships that are going to enable some of the pieces that we're not bringing to the table. And these are things that, we could definitely build and we could definitely have, but there are better people in the industry and there are better people in the market who have years of experience and track records in delivering, exactly what we need. It would be arrogant of us to then go out and assume that we could do that better, because that's a fairly well-defined, fairly well-known system and solution or set of pieces that will plug in and enable us to do exactly what we want to do. So what is happening on that side is effectively the wide-ranging conversations around how we work together, how our infrastructure and tech stack plugs into theirs. It all seems to be very, very positive, by the way. There's no gotchas, or there's nothing that's yet kind of snuck up and said, no, you can't do that, or there's no, and that is a process. And this is, we're talking about partners that are fairly, well, at a big level that just do require time and kind of due diligence and all of these things to work through these processes. And so that's what we're going through. There's also, higher level conversations around, the investment partnerships and pieces like that. And again, on a separate note, we're working on, those sorts of pieces and the partnerships and people that we want to bring in, to take a position and to help us with the raise and valuation around, delivering on these sorts of things. Not to mention the fact that what the exchange enables is critically what we can do on, other parts of our business around, Forever and what we've talked about there. It's a critical piece of infrastructure to enable those sorts of things. And again, what Duncan's working on, in the carbon space, and what we're working on, again, as we mentioned with, some of the sovereign states, these are big and crucial requirements that that they need in order to, it's not something that's stopping us from moving forward there. It's something that is going to fulfill on part of our agreement or part of our promise to, supply and provide key pieces of infrastructure. And there's more and more that's being unlocked all the time. So what we are trying to do is avoid scope creep. We're trying to make sure that we're very, very laser focused on what it is that we have to get done and how. And that's a big part of, why I'm tired at whatever time it is your time right now. But I've been awake since, 5 a.m. My time, working on, all of these pieces with, international partners and having these conversations in time zones that are probably a little bit more friendly for all of the parties that we're working with. And so my days at the moment are very, very early mornings, very, very late nights, and kind of getting things done in between. So, I'd like to say it's fun, right? But it's a lot of work, but we are getting there. And that's the thing that keeps me getting up every morning. And that's the thing that keeps me kind of, turning up for these calls and meetings.
Excellent. I want to kind of put you not on the spot, but I want to ask kind of a real direct question. And I'll preface it by saying, obviously we've got folks that have been with us for even a number of years, right? And the token just launched in February. So I would say, a good chunk of people have been around probably 6-8 months, somewhere in that range, right? And, one thing that I always kind of mention when I'm doing live streams or what have you is that, we haven't gotten to the point to where the lid has popped off even a little bit quite yet, meaning, some of the first pieces of news start to drop. And I know that that's like what everyone's kind of waiting for is once that first one goes and we can point to that and go, okay, that one is real, then it's kind of like, all right, my questions have been answered. I can take a deep breath sort of thing. one thing that, we did have a timer on, which was the exchange coming out of stealth, was something that had a timer that was counting down to August 1st. And I know, here's me putting you on the spot. Exchange coming out of stealth. Can we speak to where we're at on a grand time scale of what that may look like, which is not the launch of the exchange. It's really just here's more information type of thing.
No. I understand. And again, you have this brilliant skill, which is why I'm glad that you're with us and not with someone else, of getting me to say far more than I'm comfortable with anyway, Austin. Like, we're already in that territory. One of the things I can say is, with confidence, that timer kind of for us was an indication of where the revamp of our, the revisiting of all of the technical components, the things that we had put in place and have been building and working towards, over a 4 or 5 year period. That for us was the point at which we knew that we had all of those pieces in place in a format that would support not only the current market, but the current regulatory environment, working with, partners and other stakeholders in, on the Web 2 side that we've talked about, key financial services providers and others. And that's what that timeline was. Now, we fully expected at that point of validation where we were now saying, yes, we have this, the technology can do all of these things. That's now being verified and supported by our partners and the potential partners, that we would be able to then turn around and say to, our community and wider, interested parties, this is how we are moving forward. But the reality has been that, what we've had to do then is go through a bunch of not just kind of regulatory, but a lot of different conversations around where we domicile, where we begin, how we start. There are, and this will become clearer. I know I'm talking in generalities, but it will, when people revisit this, 3 months from now, however long, and look back at, all of the conversations that we've had, they'll be like, oh, that made sense, or I can see how that's appropriate now, right? But what that unlocked was the complexities of some of these partnerships, but also the opportunities that are in front of us, and not just from a licensing point of view. And, again, we've had to go through that and are going through that, but we've had, some incredibly positive news and some very welcoming, countries that have basically said, we're willing to allow you to license your product here, and we're willing to, based on, the outline of what it is that you're offering and how you're doing it, it really allows you to kind of avoid some of the massive regulatory pitfalls and concerns of how, people in the crypto space would now, be looking to more crypto friendly kind of, regimes and states. We have had the opposite experience. We have had people that are very, well, not typically uncrypto, but very conservative, I would say, in terms of their approach to financial services and other things, offering us, the ability to license and domicile and other things within their, environment. So that's been incredibly positive. But there are a lot of pieces. This is not a, we're not talking about a website. We're not talking about a simple piece of software, right? We're not delivering the next app or the next game or the next Flappy Bird or whatever it is. This is a much more complex piece of business than I've ever had to work through on delivering in my professional career. And I've worked with clients and partners at fairly high levels. I've worked on massive product rollouts. I've worked on company rehoming and kind of looking at establishing businesses in separate markets and things like that. All of that is kind of a great benchmark for how we move forward. But this is really a big kind of, and not necessarily complex, but it's an undertaking that requires a lot of attention to detail. So that's one of the reasons why that kind of August deadline has kind of evolved and morphed. Again, you know this better than anyone, right? We desperately want to start talking about this. This is something that it's only hurting us to not be able to sort of just shout from the rooftops about. But what we're protecting and effectively what we kind of cautious about is not necessarily the opportunity itself. It's protecting a market advantage. It's protecting the nuances around these technical partnerships and the stakeholders. It's protecting the community from the hype first kind of scenario where you end up with a lot of speculators and a lot of people coming in, and that sort of isn't fair for anyone that's followed us for a long time. But more importantly, it doesn't reflect accurately what we're doing and how we're trying to do it. We want to be at point of delivery with everything that we do, so that we can then say to everybody, it's real. Here it is. This is what we're talking about. This is why we're about to make a massive deal about it. And this is, that's the way forward, rather than, lots and lots of hype, lots and lots of wait and see, lots and lots of trust us and all the rest of it. So the final thing I will say is that I appreciate better than anyone how patient our communities had to be. I'm supremely confident that patience will be rewarded. And, again, with each week, with each round of meetings, with each kind of piece of work that we push forward, and we are doing a lot, incidentally, and we touched on this before the call today and before this recording, but, we are moving forward with a lot of critical pieces of the go-to-market strategy, on our side internally. We're building up all of those assets. So, everything is happening. Everything is moving forward. And it is just going to be a case of, just those little final 2%, those little pieces. And nobody will be more excited than us to tell you guys when that's going to happen with confidence.
Beautifully said, Davin. Well, we're getting to time, my friend. Thank you so much for breaking that down. Next week, I'm just going to tease these out now, and maybe you can give us a breakdown, maybe of your vision, how liquidity might work within the exchange, potentially some of our work with potentially tokenization, things of that nature, which have been admittedly thrown around quite a bit, and I think there may be some, again, confusion amongst the group as to how that might apply. So. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here, because if we went any longer, it wouldn't be a roundup.
One thing really quickly, Austin, before we do wrap it up, I owe everybody an update really quickly on Fias. And if I can take like 1 minute to just give you guys an update really quickly on Fias and what's going on there. I know that you guys are kind of waiting for updates on our side. What I can say with confidence, and there will be, as I said, I think last week I touched on this, there'll be a bigger announcement coming out, very, very shortly. But we have agreed that we are going to move forward and release the token onto our native chain. So I'm not sure if that was something that we had covered off, but Fias will be the first token to launch on the DevvE chain effectively. There's going to be a lot that comes with that. We've done so much analysis and due diligence, and kind of we've looked at all of the issues forensically, and we believe that with confidence we can move forward, not just with the token on our chain, but with the opportunity to then bridge from our chain into Ethereum to enable those markets to reopen. What that gives us is a lot of control again over the token contracts. It's us putting our money where our mouth is as well, and saying, look, we know that this is going to be the next step in terms of how we manage assets. We know that this is going to be the next step in terms of the pathway to the exchange. So for the token holders that are currently trading in, that's the majority of people, if not everybody in Ethereum markets, Uniswap, etc. There will be opportunities for you guys to claim those tokens back. We will come up with a full breakdown and outline of how that will work. For anyone on a centralized exchange, and that's MEXC at the moment, you guys again will be made whole, and that will be us managing that token supply and supporting MEXC with the distribution. And so there's a lot of really, really exciting stuff happening on that side. And I think, for those who are kind of waiting for hints about, how we are kind of moving forward and how we are preparing for, assets and tokens to be utilized, that's a big one for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Davin, that's an excellent note to cap it on, my friend. Thank you so much, guys. My name's Austin, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.